Hi guys, 14th Prime here with the 2,000 subscriber Q&A video. Now, this was meant to come out a good couple of weeks ago, and I had a more edited style for it, but unfortunately my editing software decided to delete the whole thing when I was halfway through. And so, to get it out in a timely manner and to not have it come out like just in time for Christmas, I've decided that I'm going to just do a more simple video where there's going to be too much editing to it so I can get it out fairly quickly. I do apologize because, like I said, I was planning to do more with this, and there are still segments of that old video that I'm debating about editing and just having be their own individual video, but we'll see. Anyways, we are still going to cover everyone's questions, which I have categorized into 3 groups. We have the custom questions, custom request questions, and then the others. And so pretty much each of these will be just kind of based on those categories because people ask questions similar to all 3 of them. But there are ones where some people asked multiple questions, which is totally fine, but some of them are related to one category and some are related to the other. So we're going to answer those whenever we get to those categories. But I figure we will go in the order of the requests, then the others, and then the custom questions, because most of the questions were custom questions, which is to be expected. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the requests. First off, we have from Wolf2000. Could you make a custom of Optimus with a Megatron figure and a Megatron with an Optimus Prime? So I don't currently have plans for it, but I do believe that the Fractured Friendship Optimus will work pretty well for a Megatron. It still has that bit of bulk going on for it. And I think Armada Megatron would make for a pretty neat Optimus. Like, you could even kind of make it be like a powered convoy homage, just with the shoulder stacks and everything. I think it'd be kind of neat. This person has asked for a repaint of Transformers 1 Sentinel into Dark Moon colors and vice versa. But I don't really have plans to do that idea. I do have plans for both versions of Transformers 1 Sentinel. We'll see if we get to them, but unfortunately it is not either of those. Rick CS 7050 has asked if I have an idea for a Cybertronian representation of the Red Baron and the Black Devil. And so I couldn't really think of anything for them for a Cybertronian form, but there is that Scout class, and I believe Revenge of the Fallen, that's based on the Red Baron named Dimefom, which I actually bought last year, so it's kind of funny that I have it. There's also a third-party figure by Toy World that's based on the Red Baron, so if you want just a transforming one in general, there's surprisingly 2 options. Scott Duncan 5525 asked if I can do a custom Star Saber from Legacy Ferric or Metal Hawk and a custom Death Source from Double Dealer, which I don't really plan to do customs for either of these characters just because I already have pretty good G1 representations of them, or more G1 generations, that kind of thing. Not to say I won't do customs of other versions of these characters in the future, just in terms of accurate to that, I don't really have any plans for it. Chad Marshall-XG5NF has asked if I can make a Last Night Nemesis Prime. And I'm kind of just hoping Studio Series does it, since they revealed that one recently. Or if they don't, I'll just get the Takara version off buy at some point, because that repaint does look really cool. And if they do it, I hope they base it on that. I know they're not gonna, but I can dream. And Hot Wheels Brothers 687 has asked if I think Reactivate Bumblebee would make a good glyph. Personally, I feel like glyph is kind of a character that's meant to be, I don't know, I guess cute is just the best word, like small, cute kind of character. So I don't know if the big, buff, militaristic vibe of Reactivate would work. I do have a glyph idea that I also might do next year, but I don't think Reactivate Bumblebee would be the best, at least just for my personal taste in glyph. If you would like to make one, I'm sure it would, you know, if you kind of lean into that militaristic vibe, just kind of give glyph a more gruff personality, I guess, go for it. And that concludes our custom request questions. So now let's go ahead and get into the others. Blue Raccoon 1088 has asked if I were to make a series with my customs, would I have auditions and how would I contact actors? So there was a point when I was planning a Shattered Glass series. I had a few story ideas written down. I even had 2 scripts, which I did have people voice, and I was working on editing, but I just kind of didn't like how it was turning out, and I didn't really have the time to dedicate to it, since, you know, unfortunately this isn't my main thing. Like, I have other stuff, customs, job, life, you know, all the boring stuff. But unfortunately I didn't really have the time to dedicate to it. I've thought about going back to it, maybe either like releasing the stories some other way, maybe as like a toy kind of comic or something like that. Will it happen? Probably not, but it's always just been a lingering idea. Maybe one day. Mime Time 08 has asked if we could see my entire custom collection, which my customs are pretty much scattered around to various different shelves and displays. My main thing is, of course, Shattered Glass, but this will be coming in the collection update here very, very soon. You know, usually like end of December, early January, I put one out, so just keep an eye out. Like I said, mainly the Shattered Glass displays. There's a couple others here and there, but those are the bulk. Tech Spider 9517 asked, what would be my own story idea I would like to make? I have had an idea for a punch counter punch story for so long because I find that he's a very underutilized character who I wish we'd get more of. Animated Shockwave stole his thing. Granted, Animated Shockwave did it beautifully, but he still stole his thing. Which my idea is essentially, ironically enough, the Decepticon version of the animated episode Auto Boot Camp, but instead it's Counterpunch first infiltrating the Decepticons, where we can kind of like see how their side of it goes with their indoctrination, how their training goes, that kind of thing. They could have like some D-list Decepticons, like the Scavengers or something, be like his buddies in boot camp. Maybe even Brawl as the drill sergeant, because that would be hilarious if he's based on his War for Cybertron video game personality. But there hasn't really been too much with Punch Counter Punch, at least mainstream. There's been a few small roles in comics and Collectors Club media, and then he was in the Headmasters. But in terms of like big things, he just hasn't really done much, and I wish he would. Glitch Modder 8788 has asked if Hasbro were to make a new Shattered Glass line, but not overpriced, which would you rather have it as? An exclusive retailer line, like Buzzworthy, Star Raiders, that kind of thing, an Amazon exclusive line, or put them in selects? 100% Amazon exclusive, because Amazon exclusives are so easy to get. They still have a little bit of retooling budget like the Shattered Glass line typically does, and they go on sale a lot easier too. Like right now, as recording this video, all three of the sets from this past year have gone on sale. I think the Senator Shockwave set is on sale right now. Another one or two from the previous year. And I've even gotten like the 2 out of 3 of the sets for United just thanks to the sales, just because the breakdown set, I've already done the stuff I want to do from that, and it doesn't interest me too much to have it just as a figure, like maybe one day, but I don't know. Also, very quick side note, the Bug set of the Bug Boys, very worth it. Really good. Easily the best of the 3 sets. It isn't even close. But yeah, personally, I'd rather an Amazon exclusive line, because the Walmart lines are complete agony to get, and just putting them in selects, they'll get like one release every 3 years. Zima Pro Gaming YT6956 has asked 2 questions that apply here. One of them being, what is your favorite toy line? Which for me, of course, 2007 and animated are lines that I really love, just because they were the lines I had when I was younger. But some of my personal favorites is things like Bot Shots. It's the only line that I've ever wanted to complete, because I've had such a fun time collecting it that I really just want to see it to the end. 3 of them I don't have. Just 3, but they're so hard to find. And then the Creo Battle Changers, just because I see a lot of potential with that idea. I wish, like, if they did Lego Transformers as a proper line, they'd base it on that, where they would just have like individual sets. They could be maybe 15, 20 bucks, where it's the actual Transformer that you build that can transform and everything. But then they could have larger sets be like play sets. Like, think like they could have a play set for the Ark, or like the Nemesis. They could even do locations from shows and movies and things like that, just to kind of tie in with them. Like, I don't know, I just see a ton of potential with that idea, and it's a shame that it really didn't get to go anywhere. And then their other question, how am I doing today? Doing alright. Alright, I guess. And that is it for the other questions. So now we are going to get into the custom questions. Starting with MaxMC55_0 asking, what got me into customizing? And I feel like what got me into customizing is what got most people into it, at least today. And that's just seeing a lot of older customs, like that little era from about 2004 to about 2012, where it was like slowly, like people started using more of the Unicron trilogy molds to make customs, and the live action movies happened, and so then everyone was trying to make G1 characters fit into the live action movie aesthetic, and we got so many live action Megatrons repainted in the Galvatron, or so many Cybertron, Starscreams, Primuses, and Armada Unicrons stripped apart to make combiners, to make Metroplex, just stuff like that. Just so much creativity. Where did those people go? I want to know what they're up to today, just because I adore that work. Like, are they still customizing? Like, what are they doing? Munchies8224 has asked, what are some customs I'm currently working on? I have a few different ideas that I'm kind of doing. The main thing I'm doing right now is a familiar custom. It is something that we have done this year, but a slight tweaking to it to make it something more in lines of what I would personally be down for. Also, I have some ideas with some blockies, mainly because I got some extra. I got a few extras from buying them, and then I've had someone give me some. And so I'll be doing like a blockies custom or two, which I'll probably end up putting in a future custom corral. But I don't really think there's any more like big projects for the end of the year, just because we're right in December as of recording this. I have this, I have a commission, I'll maybe get to one or two more things, but it's nothing major, I guess. Like, we're, in terms of the major big customs, we're kind of done. Thrash C1252 has asked, how do I mix my paints? So essentially what I'll do is, I'm going to use purple for example, because red and blue make purple. So I would take, let's say I want the purple to be more of a red base, think Shatterglass Laser Prime that I did, like the second version that was not the commission, which I don't even know if I reviewed the first one, but Shatterglass Laser Prime, we'll go with that. That purple is a bit more of a red base, and so I would start off with a red bottle of paint, and then I would add blue to it and mix it with just a little dash of paint there, like a drop or two in there, to mix it together to eventually reach that color. It's a lot of trial and error basically, and then vice versa. Let's say I want a purple that matches more to the like the Armada Sideways custom I did a few years back, which is more of a blue base. I would have a blue bottle and I'd put red in there until it would eventually work. But it doesn't always work out. There are times I just can't mix it. Purple is actually a really good example of a color I just cannot mix. And I had to actually buy another shade of purple from a different brand for something smaller I was working on, which might end up in a custom corral one day, we'll see. It's just something I don't think is dedicated, doesn't really need a whole video. Next, wait, why did I say that Sideways custom? The Shatterglass Galvatron I just did, that purple. That's more of a blue-based purple. Just did that. I don't know why Sideways was what I thought of. Keldeo Studies 149 has asked, what character or characters do you really want to make but there's no good molds to use? The only one that really comes to mind is the Decepticon Create-A-Bot, like the pickup truck, which I've had a lot of people make suggestions for what it should be, and there's just none of them really work for me. like thank you for suggesting, but just there's none that really work to kind of give me at least the broad strokes look of that design that exists currently. Like, who knows, maybe one day I'll just cave and I'll do like a Combiner Wars Ironhide into one just to have one. But for now, it's just nothing really works for me personally. Z-Moby has asked, what customs have you worked on in the past that you don't feel live up to your current standard? The main two that come to mind is the Legends of Cybertron Goldbug, just because I didn't do as much detail as I probably could have, and then how the black turned out was a little iffy. And the Shatterglass Gigatron, because that Gigatron was a fairly older custom. It was right around, I think that was right around whenever I started majorly doing custom reviews. I could be wrong. It was several years ago, which I would love to redo it if Shatterglass Overlord, not Shatterglass, if Titan's Return Overlord wasn't so expensive. Hasbro, reissue that or make a new one, please. And then the other part of their question is, have I ever straight up given up on a custom mid-project, either due to a lack of motivation or just it's not really working out? Which two come to mind. One of them was a Transmetal 2 Black Arachnia from the animated toy. It just wasn't really working out for me right at the end. I could, like, the colors weren't really working for me, and just how the plastic feels on animated toys, especially that one, was just weird. I just scrapped the whole thing. And then I was actually planning on doing a Shatterglass Soundwave from it's a Toy World figure. It was one of the Throttle Bots. It was the white band one. And I was gonna do a Shatterglass Soundwave from it, but it just wasn't working out how I wanted to, so I just scrapped the project. But of course, one of those, I ended up doing a better one anyway, so it was a win. WarGod535, TF_ Lord Washer, and another asked pretty much the same question, was tips for new beginners, which this video is going to have a few of them here and there, but a few that come to mind. Do not use fingernail polish remover under any circumstances at all on any type of plastic. It will disintegrate it. And while I do use 91% isotope alcohol to strip paint, do not use it on clear plastic. It will completely destroy the plastic. And feel free to experiment. Feel free to kind of mess up. It took me several years to get to where I would call myself decent. It was like 3 or 4 years, a lot of ruined figures, just to kind of get to like a half decent state. And of course, since then I've improved a lot, but don't be afraid of messing it up, because you're gonna mess it up when you start. But I think as long as you can learn from it and kind of keep practicing, you can eventually get there. Crosscut Studios asks, what is my favorite part of the custom process? Which for me, it's disassembly. I just love seeing a figure. I just love having them like taken apart and seeing how they work. I don't know why, I just find it fascinating. Bloodstreak 2001 has asked for tips on disassembly. And so I think this is the main one that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where I might end up taking the original idea I had for that and just making it its own individual video. But I will say that in terms of disassembly, there's kind of 3 different ways to go about it. There's just taking it apart by hand, ball joints, mushroom pegs, just stuff like that. You can just, no tools required, just ripping the figure to pieces. There is screws, which, just removing screws. Just get a screwdriver, unscrew them, that's it. And then pins, which pins are a little more complicated to just explain, but I'm going to do my best. Like I said, this might end up being its own video one day, we'll see. But you'll need a hammer, you'll need a pin puncher, and I also have some pliers that I use. You'll also need a surface you can punch out the pin that will not damage the plastic, or preferably what you're using to do it. And so when you're hitting out a pin, you want the side that's more garbled to be the side that comes out, which is a little bit difficult to tell like which side it's going to be. So that's a little bit of trial and error. I think usually it's the side that looks like it's poking out slightly more, but it's not always consistent. There's been plenty of times where I started punching out a pin, realized it was the wrong side, and I had to go the other way. But that's sort of how you would do it, which I'd also recommend before putting that pin back in, is to kind of sand that bit down a little bit so it just goes in easier. But if you're also asking about the flathead pins or rivets, no idea. Sometimes I can hit them out, most of the time I can't. I can't use a soldering iron that well to remove them by hand, so yeah, I can't really help out there. Zima Pro Gaming YT6956 and Darth Palps 24 has asked, what is my favorite custom so far? Which for me, that would be Shatterglass Tarn, Shatterglass Soundwave, the recent banned one, and Siege Scattershot. I like all of these customs for different reasons, but in terms of favorites, I don't really think I could pick just one, but those 3 just come to mind right now. And then Zima also asked about if I use knockoff figures for customs, which I generally don't. Of course, sometimes I will, but it's just not really like a thing. I don't go directly to let's just use knockoffs, basically. It's almost always an official figure. Samuel King Costumes has asked several questions. How does your painting station look like? Pretty bad. It's a mess. Like honestly, like I have paints around it. I have some figures. I have just random stuff on this table. How do you find time for painting? Really, it's mainly the bulk of what I do is on weekends. Of course, I will still work on stuff during the week, but usually I'll try to get a lot of stuff out of the way during the weekend because I have just the most time. Because, you know, again, job, life, little. But usually that's about how it goes. Because usually when I get home from work, I am very tired, so I usually won't work on custom stuff that much. So the bulk's the weekend, and then the week's usually when I kind of slowly finish things out or get it to where I can finish it during the following weekend. How many customs in your collection got replaced with later official Hasbro releases? Main two that come to mind is my Shatterglass Megatron and Shatterglass Ironhide, mainly the Siege and Earthrise versions. Because I did both of those before proper contemporaries were released. Like my Shatterglass Megatron especially, because I got two different versions of Siege Megatron. And it was like, what, I think just for that it was at least $80 before I even got to the paint. But then they just made one that was better and had new parts. And it was $30. So that was a lot of work for nothing. And then Ironhide, which was a very rare figure, the Earthrise one at the time, that everyone wanted, even though it's really, really bad. But then they ended up making DK Guard, they ended up making the DC's Army Drone, so it was just all for naught. What brushes do you use, and how do you thin your paints? Honestly, like the main brushes I use, I'm pretty sure just Walmart brushes. Like just in the variety packs, there'll be like little smaller brushes, and I'll get those. And then for thinning my paints, certain colors I'll thin, or if it's just a paint bottle that hasn't been opened in a while, so it's a little dry. Or when I'm mixing paints, I'll use paint thinner. But I mainly just use the paint thinner that brand has. So just, you know, I use Tamiya paint, so I'll use their Tamiya thinner, specifically the X20A thinner. And that is it for the questions. So again, I do apologize because I plan on this being a lot more of an elaborate video, but due to my editing software hating me, essentially, it just couldn't have happened. But I would like to thank everyone that did submit questions. I really do appreciate it. I love answering them. And yeah, thanks for 2,000 subscribers and still sticking around every now and again when I post a video to see me ramble about a custom. But yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say. So please be sure to check out my channel for other video and custom reviews. And please don't forget to subscribe. You can also come check out my Facebook and Twitter pages, links in the description below. And this is the 14th Prime, signing out.